Nerds, the debate-style program where we investigate topics no one else has the guts, tenacity, or interest to investigate. The object of the show is simple. Secure the title for your team's candidate using facts, obscure knowledge, and trash talk. Tonight, Mr. Burns versus Scrooge McDuck on Geeks versus Nerds! Montgomery Burns is an anthropomorphic velociraptor who has the same overbite and blood temperature as a reptile. Mr. Burns is old, precariously close to death, and he has been for the last 40 years. The only thing keeping him alive is a thin line called Waylon Smithers. Smithers is the functional interface for Mr. Burns, the everything else to Mr. Burns' evil genius. He's in love with Mr. Burns, so he's suffering from some form of Stockholm syndrome. Waylon does it all, from monitoring Sector 7G to releasing the dogs, or the bees, or the dogs with bees in their mouths, so when they bark, they shoot bees at you. There's a theory that being rich makes you crazy, but I just don't buy into it. It's just that there's less of a buffer between your imagination and reality. If you're super wealthy, you could say something like, hey, you know what I want? An adult-sized ball pit in the spare bedroom. And then, poof, money makes it happen. Monty Burns does more evil by 9 than most people do all day, but does that make him the most likely to survive the recession? No! Beyond the fact that anthropomorphic animals are terrifying and should be bludgeoned to death with an 80s cell phone, plucked, gutted, and eaten, Scrooge McDuck is a pretty cool guy. Called Uncle Scrooge, he's a rich old man who gets great satisfaction out of flying across the world in search of treasure, spending outrageous amounts of money, and not wearing any pants. Hey, when you're rich, apparently pants are optional. That would be true, except none of the ducks wear pants in the Disneyland world. And why is that? All the mammals have to wear pants. And why not? It's indecent. So, what makes birds so special? It's little known that Walt Disney, bless his frozen head, had a real thing for duck porn. Now, I'm not judging. I know there are people out there who get off on Wookiee on Tribble action. I may or may not be one of them. Scrooge, for all of his adventuring, is really one of the worst people you could leave your kids with. The entire family isn't really known for making a series of good decisions. Huey, Dewey, and Louie's mom, Della, whom I assume also wore no pants, left the boys with Donald originally and then disappeared. Donald, who is known to have a violent temper, was the last person to see his sister alive. Huh. Just something to think about. Now, I'm not saying that Donald is a cannibal, but I am saying he wasn't wearing any pants. Scrooge, the rich, womanizing, lifelong bachelor, is the main moral example in these children's lives, which is like leaving your children in the care of Charlie Sheen and a truckload of porn indefinitely. Which kind of explains why Scrooge wears no pants. Scrooge keeps his assets so liquid he can swim in them, but does that make him more likely to survive the recession? That's what we're here to find out. Let's meet the geeks and nerds. For Monty Burns, Team Nerd and your nerd herder, some men hunt for sport, others hunt for food. The only thing he's hunting for is an outfit that looks good. It's Stephen Heisler! You may remember her from such films as Care Bear 3, The Reckoning, and PigMonkey Goes to Space Camp. It's Christy Lee. He just watched Avatar for the first time and now has a thing for sexy blue cats. It's Fat Apollo, Mike McCluskey. And for Scrooge McDuck, Team Geek, and your geek leader. When this guy is not off racing chocobos, he's busy working on his adult screenplay. I'll Scrooge your McDuck if you Huey Dewey my Louie. It's Dave Conrad. He's excited for his first GVN show and loves you all more than you know. It's the amazing Mr. J. He gave his very last fuck when some idiot handed creative control of Airbender to M. Night Shyamalan. It's Dan Schreiber! Welcome, geeks and nerds. It is time for initiative, so if you would be so kind as to pick up the oversized D20 and roll. So, the nerds get 10 and the geeks get 17. Geeks, would you care to go first or second?
Second.
They're going to pass the first round over to the nerds. Nerds, you have 2 minutes. Please tell me why Monty Burns is more likely to survive the recession. Begin.
Ready? Begin! I would like to start by saying that C. Montgomery Burns would do anything for a buck. This is a man who literally sold out his band of brothers for a tidy little profit. He not only will do that, he will steal candy from a baby.
One of the most important qualities to possess during a recession is thriftiness. Some of Burns' cost-saving efforts include eliminating health plans, Christmas bonuses, and tartar sauce from the lunchroom. He saves on nuclear waste transport and storage by dumping it into the local rivers and ponds where ducks may or may not inhabit. He's also reduced safety costs by making sure that fire extinguishers are merely painted on the wall.
If you want to talk about some of the things that make a good leader and someone to survive the recession, the people who are most likely to survive the recession, this recession, are the 1%, but not even the 1%, like the 0.001%, and those are the people who are truly behind all of the money. And we see that Burns is in that evil league of evil. Other people who are in this include wealthy oil baron, Count Chocula, and of course Bad Horse.
Very nice. Moving over to the geeks. Geeks?
Mr. Burns may in fact do anything for a buck. Scrooge literally has done everything for a buck. There is nothing that this man has not done. And on top of that, on top of being the wealthiest thing in all of known existence, he's also a philanthropist and he's also very kind. He took in his 3 nephews from his abusive brother Donald. And if you've ever watched any Disney, you won't know what the fuck I'm talking about. That douchebag keeps his pimp hand strong.
A little bit of trivia for you guys here. It was at the age of 13 that Scrooge McDuck first moved from Scotland over to the United States with only a dime to his name, an American dime, the first dime he ever owned. And he was so pissed off that all he got for shoe shining was an American dime. He spent the next year just digging for gold. He made $1 million in 1 fucking year. A whole $1 million at 14. Who the fuck else does that?
My friends, the recession. You've heard of Ducks Unlimited. They're talking actually about Scrooge's bank account. My friends, with your permission and with the permission of the PigMonkey, I'd like to illustrate this point with a quick magic trick. It will be fast. We have here a little bit of money, and this represents the amount of times that Mr. Burns has been on our TV screen. 25 years. Please count with me by fives, friends. 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. So 25 years Mr. Burns has been around. Of course, Scrooge has been around, about 4 times that. I'm going to say the magic word, Ducks Unlimited, and suddenly, wow, can you see that?
Those are fucking 20s now.
20, 40, 60, 80, 100, and the magic word is compound interest.
We'll call the round. It is time to hand out the rebuttal tokens. For Scrooge McDuck, we have a comical bag of gold. And for Montgomery Burns, we have a comical bag of gold. Because it's just perfect. The rebuttal tokens can be turned in to address one topic and one topic only. So, nerds, it is the attack round. Please tell me why Scrooge McDuck is not likely to survive the recession. You have 2 minutes. Begin. Finish him.
All right. So usually I take these debates far less seriously, but since I'm on a team with Fat Apollo, I figured I'd be the hero that Gotham needs and stick to the facts. Each year, Forbes magazine releases the Forbes Fictional 15, which features characters that must be known both in their own fictional universe and to their audience as extremely rich. Net worth estimates are based on an analysis of the fictional character's source material and, where possible, valued against real-world commodities. This year, Mr. Burns ranked at number 3, only surpassed by Smaug the Dragon and one other contender. For the first time in years, Scrooge McDuck was not included on the Forbes Fictional 15. The reason is as follows. Diamond mining magnate Flintheart Glomgold stole the title of world's richest duck from his arch nemesis and former list member Scrooge McDuck. When the longtime rivals bet their entire fortunes on the results of an around-the-world race, Glomgold reached the finish line first, winning every last dime in McDuck's Duckburg money bin and all of his assets.
And this is the true reason why Scrooge McDuck cannot win this debate. Because he has a risky heart, and he will risk it all on a foolish race around the world, which he lost during this recession, the recession, making him someone who has not survived the recession.
We have a token being turned in. What point would you care to address?
Scrooge wasting money setting up a race around the world, Steve? Who tried to block out the sun?
A valid point.
May I state for the record that by blocking out the sun, C. Montgomery Burns increased his profits by over 600%.
Mr. Burns, in a race around the world, what an original storyline, Simpsons, lost his fortune to a southern gentleman in a white suit. Same problem.
Scrooge McDuck is a duck. Ducks' natural enemies in the woods are hunters. Hunters who consistently hunt with hounds. Things which get released on a regular basis. Release the hounds. Thank you.
Very good. Moving over to the Geeks. Geeks, same question. Please explain to me why Montgomery Burns is not the most likely to survive the recession. You have 2 minutes. Begin.
In my research for this debate, I found no end to the different things that Scrooge McDuck owns, and his main titles seem to be tycoon. I could only come up with one thing for Montgomery Burns, and it was power plant owner. If something happens to said power plant, he doesn't really have that much power any longer.
We have a token being turned in. What point would you care to address?
The fact that Mr. Burns has many, many, many other investments besides nuclear power. It includes biological warfare, Chinese opium dens. He has holdings in the Baltimore Opera Hat Company, Amalgamated Spats, and Confederated Slaves. He is the patented owner of Omninet Technology. He owns the basketball team, Venezuela, and the 2000 presidential election.
That's a hard point to contend with, going back over to the Geeks.
Clearly you went to a different part of Wikipedia than I did.
The other thing that I think is being failed to be considered here is that you have to look at, when you're talking about net worth, you have to look at money in, money out, assets, revenue, blah, 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 accountant talk that I'm not really that good at. But the problem is, yes, Mr. Burns has a considerable amount of money coming in. However, it's all going out just to keep him alive. The dude is like the avatar of degenerative disease. He's being kept alive only by this logjam of diseases that is plugging up his immune system. Oh, Mr. Burns, you could die just by a stiff breeze. So, unless Obamacare has something really special in mind for him, he's going to keep hemorrhaging money almost as fast as he's hemorrhaging life.
It is the PigMonkey question. The PigMonkey question is, in order to be the one who best survives the recession, the candidate must show diversity in their financial portfolio. Show how the character has invested their money into different aspects of maintaining wealth and power. So, nerds, you are first. You have 2 minutes. Begin. PigMonkey.
Like I mentioned before, Burns has a very diverse portfolio, you know, slaves, hats, you got it, Chinese opium, all that stuff. The one thing that I did want to point out is that 2 businesses that always thrive during a recession are casinos and prisons, seriously. And Mr. Burns happens to own both of those. And it should also be noted that it is unanimously understood amongst like economic experts,
Economists,
if you will, that one of the top recession-proof industries is in fact energy. And according to Forbes, Springfield Nuclear Power Plant is the most profitable in its industry.
Burns is not afraid to make money where there's money. Now, you got to think about Scrooge McDuck. He is a waterfowl. And if we remember the episode with little Lisa Slurry, he would have no problem processing Scrooge McDuck and all the little ducklets to make some sweet, sweet slurry.
To the geeks. Geeks, same question. Please show me how the character has invested his money into different aspects of maintaining wealth and power. You have 2 minutes. Begin.
I mean, Burns' age and decrepity aside, and all the jaundice he's got floating up in that ugly head of his. The main thing I want to say here is the point that Scrooge made, and this was back in the 50s. He spent a ton of money going on an expedition to God knows where the fuck. He found the Fountain of Youth, and he basically became immortal. That's the best way to maintain your wealth, is to maintain your life.
Surviving a recession, diversifying assets. That's all well and good. Okay, so Scrooge McDuck owns the entirety of Duckburg. He owns every industry, every home, everything in Duckburg. That is diverse. On top of that, if you look at the beginning of the recession in the United States, one of the things that was going around very prevalently was, if you look at like those fucking hidden video things where they're talking to poor people who are like, yeah, how do I save my money? They're like, just bury it in your backyard, fool. That's what you do. And that's what Scrooge did. He has a bin full of money, which, by the way, accounts for, as Launchpad McQuack is quoted as saying, a couple of $quadrillion. A couple of $quadrillion. That is enough to buy the world. And it is in concrete assets. It is in gold coins that he swims through on a daily basis. This is not a person who needs to diversify, though he did. He has the world in a bin.
Dan is right again. Now, you know the Simpsons brand extends all the way around the world, but the Disney brand extends all the way to the end of the solar system. Have you heard of Pluto? As you saw in Mickey's Christmas Carol, the billionaire bird turned benevolent at the end, and he invested not just in things, but in love and his fellow duck. And it's that light of love, my friends, love, and people coming together that shine through amidst the cold recession. Burns only has Smithers to keep him warm, or so Smithers wishes, but ducks can always fly south for the winter. Thank you.
All right. Very nice. Moving on. Who would win in a fight? Okay, over to the nerds and Monty Burns. You have 2 minutes. Please explain to me how Monty Burns would beat up a duck.
Since neither of them are super strong people, I think it's going to come down to their robotic people. We've got Gizmo Duck. Woo! Also in Mr. Burns' corner, the equivalent of Gizmo Duck, we have Richard Simmons, robotic Richard Simmons. Mr. Burns could crush Mr. McDuck like this can that I'm about to crush now. He would just
Do it.
Christy, crush that for me. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Now, if any of you have been down by Sullivan's Pond in Dartmouth, you know what ducks are like. And I fought some friggin' ducks. Friggin' ducks are stupid. What you do is you throw some corn on the ground, and when they're looking at the corn, you run up and you strangle them like this. You twist their necks like the stupid little shits they are.
I think the thing that you need to keep in mind is that Scrooge McDuck is in fact a Disney character and he has to play by Disney rules, which means no violence. Mr. Burns, however, gets to do it itchy and scratchy style.
Well done. Moving over to the Geeks. Geeks, you have 2 minutes. Please explain to me a scenario in which Scrooge McDuck beats up Mr. Burns in a fight. Begin.
One little magic trick here. I'm glad you guys like magic. That's awesome. First, surviving the recession. As you know, Mr. Burns is not likely to survive the week. He's got one foot in the grave and the other one on a banana peel. Can you imagine Mr. Burns actually throwing a punch? You know, don't quack me up. Have you ever seen a duck fight? Have you ever seen a duck fight?
Apollo has.
Yeah. So, Mr. Burns may have money to burn. But of course, you don't fuck with a duck.
Damn!
We're moving on to the scrap. We have 5 minutes of open debate. So bring it. Begin.
Dan, as per usual, wasn't listening to me when I brought up at the beginning of this debate that Scrooge McDuck doesn't have any money anymore. There's a 200-year-old law in Springfield, I read this, that all ducks are required to wear lawn pants at all times.
There is a reason that rule is in place. It's because people should have pants on, even ducks.
Scrooge is a Rolex. See this, friends? This is a Rolex watch. Scrooge is a Rolex. Burns is a Timex. Geeks are chic. Nerds are just words. Scrooge is class. Burns is an... Thank you. Scrooge is a billionaire duck. Burns is a senile old meanie.
This is a direct quote from Richard Fisher, president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. This is just from a couple months ago. It was in a session moderated by the CNBC. We're not helping, as I put it, the Homers and the Marges. We're helping the Mr. Burnses.
All right. Final words, Geeks.
Wow, I have some amazing opponents over here. But you know, you got to look at this. Even if all the money in the world became worthless during a recession, Scrooge still has the capital of friends. He's beloved as a philanthropic fowl, charitably giving to the Cancer Society, while Burns is a cancer on society, polluting the population almost as bad as Nickelback. Flattery may get you nowhere, but bribery will get you everywhere. Bribery is the coin of the rich. Hence, whoever claps the loudest in support of Team Geek gets to keep this.
Final words, nerds.
Release the hounds.
Also, whoever applauds loudest for us gets to keep this.
Final words. We're fucked. I have one more.
All right, you've heard the arguments and had the bribery. It's time to choose a winner. Do we hear it for Scrooge McDuck and the Geeks? Or do we hear it for the nerds and Montgomery Burns? All right. And I hereby declare the most likely to survive the recession to be Scrooge McDuck. Thank you for watching Geeks versus Nerds. Please tune into the next show.
Good guys, bad guys, and explosions. As far as the eye can see, and only one will survive. I wonder who it will be. This is the ultimate showdown. This is the ultimate showdown. This is the ultimate showdown. Ultimate destiny.